Well, good evening, everyone. I hope you've had a great Wednesday. Tonight, we're going to be reading another bedtime Bible story about a very brave woman from the Bible. This is called The Brave Queen, and it's from the book of Esther. This is the story of a brave queen and of how God placed her in just the right place at just the right time to save her people. King Ahasuerus was looking for a queen, so all the beautiful young women in his kingdom were brought to his palace. Esther was one of them. Esther was very beautiful. She was also a Jew. When she went to the palace, her uncle Mordecai warned her not to tell anyone that she was Jewish. This was because not everyone liked God's people. Esther and all the other young women were given a whole year of beauty treatments before they could even see the king. At last, it was Esther's turn to go to the king, and he loved her best of all. So he placed a royal crown upon her head and made her his queen. One day, Mordecai overheard two guards plotting to kill King Ahasuerus. He warned Esther, and she warned the king. The plot was stopped, and Mordecai's bravery was written in the king's book of history. Now, Haman was one of the king's officials. All the people bowed down to him, except Mordecai. Haman was furious. He decided to destroy Mordecai and all the Jewish people too. So Haman lied to the king. "There are people who don't obey your laws," he said. "They should be destroyed." The king didn't like people disobeying him. "Do as you see fit," he told Haman. So Haman ordered the king's officials to destroy all the Jews, young and old, on the 13th day of the 12th month. When Mordecai heard about the order, he tore his clothes and wept bitterly. Esther sent a servant to find out what was wrong. Mordecai sent a message back to her. "Tell the queen she must go to the king and beg him to save her people." But Esther said, "If I go to the king without being called for, I could be killed. Only if the king holds out his golden scepter will I live." Mordecai answered, "Do you think you'll be safe just because you live in the palace? Who knows? Maybe you were made queen so that you could save your people." So Esther sent word to Mordecai to gather all the Jews and fast for 3 days. "I and my servants will fast too," she said. "Then I will go to the king. And if I die, I die." Mordecai did just as Esther asked. On the 3rd day, Esther dressed in her most royal clothing. Trembling, she went to see the king. When the king saw her, he held out his golden scepter to her and said, "What is it, Queen Esther? I'll give you whatever you want, even up to half my kingdom." "If it pleases the king," Esther said, "will you and Haman come to a banquet today?" The king was pleased. At the banquet, he said, "I'll give you whatever you want, even up to half my kingdom." But Esther only said, "I ask that you and Haman come to another banquet tomorrow. Then I'll tell you what I want." Haman left the palace full of joy that day. He'd been invited to 2 royal banquets, but on his way home he saw Mordecai and was filled with anger again. When he told his wife and friends about Mordecai, they said, "Have a gallows built, then ask the king to hang Mordecai on it." So Haman did just that. That night, King Ahasuerus couldn't sleep, so a servant read to him the story of how Mordecai saved his life. "What has been done to honor Mordecai?" the king asked. "Nothing," answered his servants. The king asked Haman, "How should the king honor a man?" Thinking the king wanted to honor him, Haman said, "Dress him in the king's own robe and put him on the king's own horse. Then have the king's most noble official parade him through the city square." This pleased the king, so he said, "Do just as you said for Mordecai." Haman obeyed, but he did not like it. At Esther's second banquet, the king once again said to her, "I'll give you whatever you want, even up to half my kingdom." This time Esther answered, "Please save my life," she begged, "and the lives of my people." King Ahasuerus was shocked. "Who dares to threaten the queen?" "Haman," said Esther. The king was so angry that he stormed out of the room. Haman fell onto the couch where Esther sat, begging her to save his life. The king returned and saw Haman. "Would he hurt the queen in my own palace?" he shouted. Then a servant said, There's a gallows at Haman's house. He built it for Mordecai. Hang Haman on it, the king ordered. So it was done. And that is how brave Queen Esther saved the lives of all of her people. Queen Esther bravely spoke to the king to save her people. Jesus also speaks to the king for his people, asking him to protect us and forgive us. Our last verse tonight comes from John 17:11. It says, "Holy Father, protect them by your name that you have given me." Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you all have enjoyed this great story. And tomorrow, join us for our devotional at 12 o'clock. Have a good evening. Good night.